This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome to episode number 56 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I'm your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco. Vito Jerome Chirco, that is, alongside my sidekick, my partner in crime, as usual, the Doc from Doc and Jock here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and that is John Macaroon.
Vito, what's happening, brother?
I am good. I am good today. Everybody's looking good, feeling well, right? You're feeling well. Family's doing well after a long Labor Day weekend. Successful, nice, relaxing, all of the above, right? For you and your family too, Doc?
Labor Day was awesome, man. Took Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. It was something much needed, man. Working 6 days a week gets to you after a while, and the weather was absolutely perfect. Had some bonfires, had some cocktails, and I'm ready now to podcast. And what also made it a great weekend was the Tigers were winning. And Justin Upton, his bat's heating up. The Tigers are playing a great brand of baseball right now, and they're hanging on to a wild card spot. So it's been all good this past weekend.
How about J Up? How about what he's done? Winning Sunday's game for the Tigers against the Royals. They won 2 out of 3 in KC at Kauffman Stadium. Then going into Chicago against the White Sox, and J Up hits that home run as well to win it there, Doc. I mean, how about his efficient bat of late in a run-producing fashion, too, in late inning or big moment situations, too. It seems like he has produced in almost all of these situations of late and with the long ball. Since they sat him those 3 games, Red Ausmus, when he made that decision to rest him for 3 straight games, guess how many home runs he has hit since that moment, Doc?
Let's say 8?
8 home runs. Did you read some stats? Maybe you're reading up on your stats a little bit. I know you like to at times as well.
Well, Vito, I was a guy that actually came on the podcast and said, and I think I might have said it here in the Doc and Jock podcast, that Justin Upton might have been the worst signing in Major League Baseball history and a worst signing for the Detroit Tigers. And all he had to do was have a conversation, a brief conversation, whether it be 15, 20 minutes with David Ortiz. And since then, I don't know if David Ortiz just told him, hey, be yourself, watch out for a couple things, maybe told him a couple mechanical adjustments. But since that conversation, Justin Upton's been on a tear, and you can see why the Tigers signed him if we got this version of Justin Upton at the beginning of the season. But when you go well over 100 games and you don't produce, he started to draw the ire of the fans. But this version of Justin Upton, I said, if his bat came around, the Detroit Tigers had a great chance. I just didn't think it would happen. But now that he's hitting, he's contributing so much to this Tigers organization, and what he can do for that offense, it makes a whole heck of a lot of difference, and you're starting to see the Tigers become a clutch team as of late, and it's great to see, finally, Justin Upton living up to the hype. He's still around, I believe, a small negative WAR, but he's inching ever so close to being a positive player, and he's done some great things these last couple weeks. He's really helped the Tigers' cause.
Doc, in his last 15 games suiting up for the Tigers, J-Up has hit 8 home runs, as I said, 21 RBIs, and then also a .339 batting average. So his slugging percentage right now is off the charts in his last 15 games. And his OPS exceeding, I got to believe, 900 right now in these last 15 games. So, and when you have more runs batted in than games played in, you know you're doing really successful at the plate. So he has done big time, and big time props to him and the other Justin Verlander. It was really the story of 2 Justins on Monday, on Labor Day as well, against Chicago. And Verlander going up against Chris Sale. Always a mighty matchup against that tall left-hander of the White Sox. And Verlander did his job. Struck out 11 Ks, exceeding 200 Ks on the season, Doc, for the first time since 2013. He had taken all that time off where he wasn't, reaching the same velocity, the same kind of stuff, the dominant stuff. And then he comes back in 2016, this year I'm talking about specifically, and he has exceeded 200 Ks this season, Doc. I mean, pretty incredible from where he was at one point last year, not looking good coming off the DL, and now he's this great starting pitcher and the number 1 of the Tigers big time once again.
Listen, the question that we all have to ask, and I threw it out there on our Twitter page, at Detroit Podcast, do you now trust Justin Upton on this team right now? Do you trust that he's going to continue this, or is it something where you go, listen, they're playing bad teams, and he's able to kind of get off against some pitchers, but hey, Justin Upton, if he can continue this in big series upcoming versus Baltimore, if he can continue this, then you're looking at a situation where these Detroit Tigers can compete. Do you trust Justin Upton?
Right now, I am more and more. I know I'm kind of on the fence, but honestly, I'm going to get off the fence right here for you for a moment and say that I do trust him going forward to produce in clutch situations most of the time, and in enough situations early in the game, too, to where he will be a productive member of the Tigers' middle of the lineup the rest of the way this season, which is what you need out of J-Up with all the money that he's making. And a stupid amount of money. We know that much, right, Doc? He's not going to live up to it this year. Now, he's exceeded 700 for his OPS now, finally, but it took long enough. But everything added up with the war, as you noted, too. He's not worth the money that he's making this season. But going forward, hopefully his bat is productive, and he stays healthy to remain productive in the middle of the Tigers' order to a huge extent, too. And if he does, Tigers can go on a big run, even bigger run than they already have started going on in September and really late August until now. And I think they can stay on this run. If he stays hot, they stay on this run big time. And they need Maben to stay healthy. They need Kinsler to do a little bit better. But I say big time, if his big bat keeps producing, I say the Tigers stay hot the rest of the way. And if that happens, Doc, I'm seeing 88 to 90 wins, by the way, for the Tigers. If his bat stays hot, if JD Martinez stays hot, if Cabby keeps hitting, who has now 301 home runs in a Tigers uni. How about that?
Wow.
He's exceeded that amount, fourth all-time now on the Tigers' all-time home run list. Pretty incredible for Miggy. So all those guys staying hot and healthy, most importantly, I think that almost will guarantee a Tigers playoff spot, and via that second wild card spot.
So what's going on with Justin Upton? What has led to this resurgence? Is he just kind of, have you seen any small, minor mechanical adjustments? Do you see him picking and choosing his spots better? It seems just like all of a sudden in the last week or so that he's seeing the ball much better. He isn't striking out as much, and he's finding a way to really hit the ball with some power. And he's hit some home runs to the opposite field, which he's not really known for. I know something that was talked about on one of the Tigers broadcasts was he tried to come in here early this year and tried to spray the ball all over the baseball field when he's been known and been effective as a pull hitter. And so Rod Allen had said on one of the Tigers broadcasts that he's noticed that Justin Upton's just been like, listen, forget it. I'm just going to do what I do best, and I'm going to try to swing fully, aggressively, and if I pull the ball and I'm exclusively a majority pull hitter, so be it. But you just see an approach that's just so much better by Justin Upton, and if this guy, like I said, can come back and continue this stretch of play going forward, hey, we need this, and it can make that contract much more tolerable because a lot of it has to do with the amount of money we're paying him. And based on his production earlier in the year, you can't justify paying a guy that much. But if he's going to hit home runs at this pace, my goodness, whatever David Ortiz said and whatever adjustments he's made, if you've noticed any, then thank goodness it happened finally.
I think being more confident, I think resting him made him more confident and seeing that he started hitting the ball. Once he started seeing that, the bat hit the ball, I think it's made him more confident as a slugger, and he realizes he can hit for power at a supreme rate once again. He knows that. He has that in his background, right? So it's in the arsenal. It's about him showing it, and he has showcased it much more consistently, and that's why he's gone on this torrid rate of late. In his last 15 games, having those 8 home runs, 21 ribbies. I mean, that's extremely and highly efficient. You can't beat that. And you need that more and more, or around that same rate out of J-Up. If you get that and get the same kind of rate out of JD Martinez that has been showcased in recent memory, if you get the same kind of stuff out of Miggy pretty much going forward, same kind of stuff out of V-Mart, those big bats, if they produce, they can almost carry this team, I think, into a playoff spot because of a team they're playing this weekend, okay, in the Orioles, who have fallen on a little bit of tough times, not extremely tough because they're still in it, they're still relevant, tied up with the Tigers and whatnot for the wild card, but the thing right now to take into account, Doc, is the fact that Tillman and really the rest of the Orioles starting pitching, I mean, it's not the greatest. Tillman is their ace. He's been hurt, though, with shoulder soreness, so been on the DL since August, late August, and he's the ace of the O's. So with him going down on the DL, they have Kevin Gossman, that's 25-year-old, good starting pitcher, had a lot of expectations going into this season, going into his Major League Baseball career as a whole, but the O's kind of have struggled, I mean, in the rotation, big time. And that's their biggest weakness. So, and the Tigers can, take advantage of those struggles right now for the O's, and maybe they can tame those bats this weekend against the Orioles as well. And the Tigers have a chance for sure to claim that second wild card spot. But before any of that even comes up, right, and can occur, it's about beating these teams that they have to take advantage of when they're playing, which, first and foremost, it's the White Sox, who they played and beat Monday on Labor Day. They have to face Jose Quintana, who's a very good starting pitcher as well, almost as good as Chris Sale this season. Now, he has a 1-1 record, 3.86 ERA, and 3 starts against the Tigers so far this year, Doc. What do you think will happen, though, against Quintana?
Listen, I'm feeling that the Tigers are playing with supreme confidence. They're clutch right now. As long as this offense can keep rolling, I see no reason why they can't take this series easily versus the White Sox. Now, versus Quintana, you know what you got to do, like with every pitcher. You just got to be selective. You have to be able to get the counts in your favor, and you just got to be able to remember, keep it simple, play solid fundamentally, keep this offense rolling, and if you get behind early, no problems. Maybe you can rely on the big bats of JD, Miggy, Upton. Right now, you could even say that I have confidence, even if they get down 1-0, 2-0, that they can mount a significant offense. And what you really need now is Kinsler to kind of regain that pop again.
Absolutely.
And you just need great pitching performances. Now, you had asked me before I started talking about Upton about, was it Verlander that you were talking about in terms of a solid starting pitcher that's kind of re-emerged?
I was kind of getting at that. Well, I was talking about JV, how he had 11 Ks, has 200 Ks on the season now, has exceeded that amount. First time since 2013 doing that. So, big-time progression out of this guy who didn't look the best. Remember, the first half of last year, coming off with a DL and whatnot, was not the JV of old. And really wasn't that JV of old in 2014 either, if you remember right, Doc. Now, this season, he's the ace of the Tigers pitching staff and perhaps the best starting pitcher in the AL. Has been consistently every fifth day so far this year. So, for you, how much does that stand out as a huge-time impact on this Tigers roster?
No doubt about it, Vito. An emerging JV, a guy that early in the year had said, listen, I know you may count me out. I know you may think that I'm done, but I'm going to be dominant again. And basically now for the better part of 1 year, if you go back from last year's All-Star game till now, he's had some pretty good performances. He still is now prone to give up the long ball because he's stubborn, and if he doesn't locate his fastball, it's hittable. But by and large, he's keeping his mistakes. He's keeping them, relatively speaking, to 1-run home runs, and it hasn't caused too much damage. And wasn't that great to see how he was playfully bantering with Alex Avila? That was awesome when, Brad Ausmus came out there. I think he had thrown around 113 pitches, and he was like, no, I'm going to stay in this game. And he was able to get the strikeout and end the inning. And it was something that you go, listen, that's what you want your ace to do. Mm-hmm. You want the ace to show confidence, to call out the manager and say, listen, keep me in this game. I'll do what I got to do. And if Justin Verlander, and now you're hearing, when you look at the reports about what Jordan Zimmermann's doing in the minors, he says he feels comfortable. And now Jordan Zimmermann is doing great things now in the minors. He's going to come back up soon. And if you can get everybody back relatively healthy in the middle of September, now you're talking about a team that can not only get to the postseason, whether it be through a wild card or however you get to the postseason, as long as you get there and you got an emerging JV and he's dominant and you go, maybe JV, Fulmer, Zimmermann, good luck, man. If Fulmer can give you some stuff, then you go, you got a chance to compete if everything comes together. That's all you're looking for is a chance to compete. But it's still a lot of question marks, but some of them are being answered, and the answers are coming back. And we're all happy.
They're very fruitful. I mean, Jay Up coming to form all of a sudden. Jay Verlander, looking like a stud. He's a bona fide ace right now. And, hey, he's all fine, right? All fine and dandy if he's not facing Alex Avila. Avila, his former battery mate, 2 home runs this season off of JV. Isn't that something? Avila taking him deep? And he's been an all right backup when healthy this year for the White Sox. We like Salty, but you could say to a certain extent that, Avila would not have been bad either with the Tigers this year. Now, if he would have been more healthy up to this point, which he has not, Salty has been there a lot more healthy, and Salty has had the clutch bombs and whatnot. So, anyways, though, Pelfrey as well.
Please.
Big Pelf. He's coming back. He's back in the bullpen. You're talking about guys coming back, things going right for the Tigers at this time of the season, the right juncture of the season when, you're in a pennant race here now. Hey, he's coming back. I know, right? That's how bad he has been all year long and how much we don't even care about him and his productivity going forward. But Jordan Zimmermann, they got to get him being back healthy and productive. And that number 2-3 spot, and I think number 2 spot, honestly, Doc, because Fulmer hasn't looked as great, remember, since, at least shaving all that hair on his face, huh? But realistically, all these innings on his arm now, Fulmer's arm, a number 3, but a dominant number 2? Or ace caliber guy? No, I don't think he's going to be that, nor should we expect him to be that. And I've kind of talked about that before, Doc, on this podcast, too, about Fulmer.
Okay, we'll get a chance after the break to get a chance to get the insights from one of the beat writers Anthony Fenech. You secured him. Good job, Vito. I'm looking forward to hearing your interview with him. But after the break, I know you'll have a conversation with Anthony, and then we'll come back and discuss some more topics regarding the Detroit Tigers, the great week that was, and also looking ahead to the Baltimore Orioles series for sure.
We'll be right back with Mr. Anthony Fenech of the Detroit Free Press after this quick commercial break. Looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Then look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan quarterback John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the very highest quality and the very best service. So get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going online to TopCatTeamSales.com. And remember, you must follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter at Team Top Cat. And now, joining me here on episode 56 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company is the one and only beat writer of the Detroit Free Press for the Detroit Tigers, and that is Mr. Anthony Fenech. Anthony, how's it going today?
Vito, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, very good to hear from you. We finally secured you for a spot on the podcast, and I'm glad to say that. So I wanted to ask you, first and foremost, we got to discuss how you started off as a beat writer for the Tigers in 2015, had to go through all the struggles and the lack of a pennant race down the stretch in September, and it had to be dismal for you, being the beat writer in that kind of a season. But now you've had the opportunity to cover this team in the heat of a wild card and division race. So you got to tell me, Anthony, how is it different from last season?
It's much different because let's put it this way, the players are much easier to be around at this point of the season when they're in a playoff hunt. I mean, last year after the trade deadline, everyone was pretty much in a bad mood on a consistent basis because they had kind of given their season away at the deadline. I can only speak for me, but last year, my first year on the beat, it was just, I was pretty much done by early September just because it's the baseball season, the grind. And this year, second season, you kind of know what to expect. So it should be a big month of baseball, and I'm looking forward to covering it, especially like you said, a playoff chase for the first time. Tigers are starting to play well. There's a lot of things to write about with the team right now. So, but really, like I said, to answer your question, it's much more of a happy environment inside that clubhouse nowadays when they're winning a lot of games they shouldn't, and they're in the thick of things.
Now, how do you stay, though, mentally fresh, when it's so draining, the grind of a season?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to stay fresh. I mean, just because they're so, you got to be at the ballpark for about 8 to 9 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day, 11 hours a day. They turn into long days, and sometimes it's hard to kind of step outside of the baseball world, so to speak, you know what I mean, of social media and stuff. And sometimes it almost feels like whichever way you turn, there's baseball there, but you just got to carve out some time for yourself, to get a workout in, to spend some time with family, stuff like that, because that's the stuff that kind of keeps you sane during the grind of the season.
Yeah, it's a 162-game regular season, and Anthony Fenech of the Detroit Free Press, on with me courtesy of the Top Cat Sales phone line, is still staying fresh, as I am, and we got to move on now and clear out your reporter's notebook. Nick Castellanos, how much time do you think he'll need before he's ready to return first and foremost?
Tigers are in an interesting situation with Castellanos because when he's going to be ready to come off the DL, and this could be 2 weeks from now, probably closer to 3 weeks. But when the Tigers are ready to bring him back, he's not going to have the luxury of going down to the minor leagues to do a minor league injury rehabilitation assignment. So they're going to have to get creative, perhaps maybe with simulated games. Maybe they'll send him to Lakeland to jump in the instructional league, but instructional league doesn't open until the 18th. So it's going to be really interesting because he's not going to be able to get the looks from the minor league pitchers and in a game atmosphere that he would if he was in the middle of the season. And after a 6 to 8 week kind of layoff, and then I think it's maybe about 6-7 weeks. That's going to be big down the stretch because the Tigers are going to want to plug him into the lineup right there. around guys like Justin Upton and JD Martinez. And just the question is how ready he's going to be able to get, not having the minor leagues at his disposal. So with Castellanos, they still don't have like a real concrete timetable, but it should be about 2 to 3 weeks still, because he just started swinging the bat when they were in Kansas City. He was swinging a fungal bat because it's a little bit lighter. Then he's going to kind of progress a hitting progression.
So, Anthony, speaking of Casty's effectiveness, when he does return, are you willing to estimate over or under 2 home runs out of him?
Oh, jeez. How many games? How many games? He plays 10 games. I don't know. Let's go under, I guess. I don't know. That's a tough one.
That is, but you got to play it safe. They don't have many games left, final month of the season, so I get where you're going with in terms of that and projecting what Casty will do going forward once he returns from the disabled list. And wanted to move on to their starting rotation, and to a guy that's been hurt and out for a while and actually came back. Now he rejoined the DL because of issues again. Jordan Zimmermann, that is, who allowed 7 runs. 2 of them were earned over 4 2/3 innings in a rehab start Monday for Toledo, and the club's final game of the season too. And how much longer do you think he will need now before he's officially ready to return? And how productive also, Anthony, do you think he'll be once he does return?
You know, looking outside of that line, which was pretty ugly, I mean, it's all about how he feels. And really, they're going to have to kind of look him square in the eye and get an answer that they didn't have last time. Because I really think that Jordan Zimmermann kind of pushed himself a little bit. He's a guy that likes to take the ball every 5th day, just on this big contract. I think he kind of expedited the recovery process last time and came back earlier than he should have, and that kind of, that was a setback. He went back on the DL with a re-aggravation of the right neck strain. But from talking to him in Kansas City before his final rehab start, which appears to be his final rehab start because the minor leagues are wrapping up their season, he said he felt a lot better night and day compared to his first rehab assignment. And this wasn't something that, he's not putting on, in my opinion, he wasn't putting on a good pace. So the only thing I can do is kind of take him as a word. I haven't seen him throw during his minor league, his rehab stint, but he said he's feeling a lot better than he was last time. He seems to have kind of pinpointed the problem a little bit when he went to one of his old physical therapists. As far as what he's going to give him, I don't think he's as good as he pitched in the first month of the season, but I definitely don't think he's as bad as he was, kind of after that. I mean, this has been a difficult year for him because this isn't a guy that's usually hurt. I mean, outside of his Tommy John surgery, he's never really been to disabled list. And he's been there for quite some time this summer. So look, I think the Tigers, if he comes back and he gives them like what they thought when they could sign him about it, number 2, number 3 kind of pitcher, I think that'd be big going down the stretch because it would alleviate some pressure on Michael Fulmer. I mean, they got a lot of pressure on him right now being the number 2 guy in the rotation. And if Zimmermann comes back and he's healthy and he's fine, I mean, he's clearly, he might not be at Fulmer's level anymore. I mean, Fulmer is really throwing the ball well, but he gives them that strong top 3 that they would need to get to the postseason. But even without Zimmermann, it's been really surprising how the Tigers starting pitching has held up in the second half.
And also because of Matt Boyd, a guy like that, Daniel Norris of late. I mean, let's talk about those guys now. How crucial have they been to the Tigers' success as well down the stretch here?
Oh, they've been huge. I mean, because, it took them a couple injuries to get their shot. But, I mean, Matt Boyd, to me, has been he's just been so valuable to that rotation when, Anibal Sanchez was struggling and when Pelfrey was hurt. Zimmerman's been in the DL, and they were really running thin on starters there. And, if Matt Boyd comes up and he shows the Matt Boyd that he did last season where he was very inconsistent and getting hit knocked around a lot, well, the Tigers wouldn't be in the position where they are right now where they kind of, control their own destiny during the pick of the race. I mean, I think the biggest strides he made with pitching coach Rich Doobie is he lowered his arm slot a little bit. So he's almost throwing a little bit sidearm, but he's gotten a little bit more velocity from that to more break on his slider. He's shown the ability, to me, the biggest thing for Matt Boyd is he's shown the ability to make adjustments. And look, I don't think he's a front line kind of guy, but he's making the Tigers look smart for kind of hanging on to him at the trade deadline when some teams were calling for him for a back end option. So that was good. And Daniel Norris, I mean, I think that once Zimmermann rejoins the rotation, I think he would be the odd man option because he's not going deep enough into games. I think he made some strides this last time out against the Royals where he finally pitched into the 7th inning. They were trying to get him into
getting through that seventh inning, but he tired a little bit. For Norris, with me, it's all about repeating his mechanics. When he's repeating them, he's very effective. When he's not very effective. And on Sunday against the Royals, he was repeating his mechanics, and he got some swing and miss all around a really good game. But to me, when they bring Zimmermann back, or when Zimmermann is activated, it looks like Norris would be the guy that comes out of the rotation. But both Norris and Boyd have been really big for the Tigers this summer.
Now, how about Anibal Sanchez, though? I mean, wouldn't he be the odd man out with his struggles? And does he even have a future in Motown past 2016, in your opinion?
I mean, it's going to be interesting just because, Sanchez, he was kind of left for dead early in the season with the center of the bullpen, but he's been pitching better as of late. To me, he's been pitching better, against some subpar competition. You know what I mean? The Twins and the White Sox. Mets aren't even. The Mets are turning on as of late. When they're at Comerica Park, they were playing that well. So he's still got it. You can't really count on an every start kind of basis. And I think that it will be a decision based on Norris just seems to have better stuff than Sanchez at this point in his career. But when Sanchez has shown the ability to locate, he's been really effective. And even about a couple weeks ago when he was pitching against the Royals, he limited them pretty well. And it'll be interesting because Sanchez, the thing with him is that he hits his wall so much earlier than he did in the past. I mean, he used to do 100 pitches. Now he's getting tired of 75, 85 pitches. And the question is if the Tigers are willing to kind of stick with him. As far as next year, I mean, I think I thought all along that if he doesn't really have a spot in the starting rotation next year, I think the Tigers would explore a trade for him because I think he wants to pitch. He wants to pitch in a starting role, and I don't think he's fully adapted to the fact that his stuff is diminished. I think he still has a little bit left in terms of adapting to becoming more of a finesse guy, a guy that really has to rely on location more. He can't live up in the zone. I mean, he used to be able to do that when he was throwing 94 and 95, but not with this velocity. So I think that, the Tigers don't have a spot for him in the starting rotation. It wouldn't surprise me if Anibal Sanchez went on a different team next year.
Yeah, I don't think Anibal can last another full 162-game regular season. I don't think he has the durability anymore to sustain that kind of success over that length of a season anymore, and to be anything more than a fifth starter. That's my opinion right now about Anibal.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still got some potential to be maybe like a 4, potentially, if he can really fully embrace the fact that, he's got to kind of change up his repertoire a little bit. I mean, he's got so many pitches, and he's just got to kind of rely on that location. I mean, I think that his mechanics have kind of been a little bit out of whack this year, but I tend to agree with you. I mean, the injury things with Sanchez, they haven't been, that hasn't been something that's been new. He's always been getting hurt, and I don't see why that would expect to change in the future as he gets older.
And now we talked about Castellanos already being on the DL, and a guy that's been called up since then to kind of replace him or at least play sparingly at third base has been this youngster, Jacoby Jones, who has really exceeded expectations thus far there for the Tigers. Now, how much more of an impact do you see him making down the stretch with the Tigers?
I mean, I think it's still kind of too early to tell. I mean, remember, he's a rookie. He came up and he had those 2 great games, and I think that kind of that inflated his expectations a little bit too much. I mean, this isn't a guy that's like a savior or anything. He's not really going to cure the Tigers' inconsistency woes with their offense, but he gives them a solid backup at a couple of positions they really need it right now. We talk about third base and center field because Cameron Maybin's thumb is still there's a big question about that thumb, and he's been playing hurt for a while. And he, just recently missed 5 games back in the lineup. Well, taking 95, 96 mile an hour fastballs and swinging a big, bat with that, there's more likely than not that thumb's going to flare up again. And then, so what that does is that gives Tigers a really athletic option. I think they've really been, their eyes have been open with Jones and his athleticism. Look, he wasn't hitting that great. He was hitting 243 at Toledo before they called him up. But they know that he has the athletic capability to play in the big leagues. And he's got some speed to boot, so this could be a guy that you can see with the rosters expanding. He can be a guy that can come in off the bench like to be a pinch runner. Now, look, he's had a great base stealer. Most base stealing comes with experience, so obviously he doesn't have that. But he's a guy that they can definitely pinch run and kind of maybe from time to time, Brad Oswald can use him in the role that he did last time. Maybe a youngster can spark the guys a little bit when they're maybe in a couple game losing streak or something like that. But as far as how big he'll be down the stretch, I don't think he'll be huge. But as you know, Vito, if they win the wild card by a game or two, well, Jacoby Jones really helped them win those 2 games. So from that perspective, he's made a big impact.
And Detroit Free Press Tigers beat writer Anthony Fenech on with me, courtesy of the Top Cat Sales phone line. And Anthony, what's your prediction now for where the Tigers will end up in the AL Central by the end of this campaign?
It is. It's hard to see them not making the postseason at this point. The way that they've been winning games as of late, their schedule in September is very favorable. They got the Twins and the White Sox, and this weekend, obviously, they got the Orioles coming in who they're chasing the wild card. And then to look at the division, 4.5 games is a pretty significant lead for the Indians right now, but it's not something that's insurmountable, not with 7 games head-to-head still. And, I mean, the Tigers might have already done too much damage by going 1-11 in the first 12 games against them, but the division is still very much in play because, look, the Indians haven't been the most consistent team either. And as we were talking about earlier, we've got guys that the Tigers got guys that could be coming back in terms of Jordan Zimmermann, and if he could give them a shot in the arm and pitching the way that they expect him to pitch, and Nick Castellanos. I mean, look, the Tigers lineup is just ridiculously scary. I mean, just 1 through 9. I mean, look, I know there's a little bit at the back end. James McCann has struggled offensively this year. Jose Iglesias is more of a contact guy, but everybody kind of fills their own role. I mean, this is just a very high-powered, high-octane offense, especially with Justin Upton hitting the ball the way he is now. I mean, right now, J.D. Martinez is one of the best hitters in baseball. There's no doubt about it. He's not even the best hitter in this lineup. I mean, you got, Miguel Cabrera, who's the greatest right-handed hitter of this generation. It's just a very, very potent starting lineup. So I think really that they're one of the teams in the American League that nobody really wants to play. Now, are they better than Boston or Toronto or Texas? I really can't go that far, but at the end of the day, when anything can happen in October, looking at their schedule, the way they're playing right now, the way that things have fallen into play, I think the Tigers will at least make a wild card appearance.
So what are the odds, though, that you give the Tigers to catapult the Indians for first place in the Central? Tell me that before we wrap up things here.
Let's go with, 33% maybe, because I think it's going to be a different tune when these two teams are playing in September. I mean, let's say the Tigers pull within 3.5 when they go into Cleveland in a couple weeks. This is a young team, the Indians are, that haven't been playoff tested, whereas the Tigers, they're used to playing meaningful games in September and October. So I think that the Indians have yet to face their real tests when the Tigers come to town. But I also think the Indians have a very good ball club, and a lot of the things that have been happening to the Tigers with the comeback the comeback wins late in the games. Well, the Indians have been doing that all year, so they have a little bit of mojo too, and they have a much better starting rotation. But still, those starters are young, and that team's young. They're not battle tested, so let's go with 33%.
It'll be tough for the Tigers to catapult the Indians atop the Central, but at least they have 7 more tries against the Tribe. So we know that much, and a relatively easy schedule going forward, playing the Twins, last place AL Central Twins 7 more times. They play the Braves to wrap up the season, and playing the White Sox the rest of this series. They have a chance to pick up some ground and to get into the postseason, and with 14 of their last 23 after the White Sox series being at Comerica Park. So they have a relatively favorable schedule going forward, too, to say the least, Anthony.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they beat up on the Twins this year. The White Sox are a bad team, and again, they play well at home. So I don't think that I don't think you're overstating that when you talk about them playing at Comerica Park. Because I know they struggled a little bit recently, but they've notoriously been playing very well at home. And they end the season with 3 in Atlanta, who's one of the worst teams in baseball. Now that being said, they're going to be without a big bat with Victor Martinez in that series, but I still think that that's a favorable series to end up the season with. So looking at their September schedule, I think it bodes well for the Tigers at least getting a shot at a wild card game.
Anthony, stay fresh, keep up with the grind the rest of the way, and I wish you the best of luck, and the Tigers as well. And I'll talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely, Vito. Keep up the good work, you too.
Thank you very much. You have a good one.
Yeah.
And that was Anthony Fenech of the Detroit Free Press, who just joined us, courtesy of the Top Cat Sales phone line. He is the beat writer for the Tigers for the Freep, a paper that I also write for, freelance for, work on the prep sports crew as part of the Free Press. And he brought his heat, right? He brought the fastball, the 95-mile-per-hour fastball, I would say, and some good insights on, the injuries for the Tigers, when these guys will come back, Castellanos, Jordan Zimmermann. And right now, the word on the street is regarding Castellanos, Doc back in the fray with us here on Tiger Stock. The word regarding Castellanos, Doc, is that he's out for another 2 weeks. I mean, they're saying that more and more, and there's only 25 games, I believe, remaining as of Tuesday night. Not many games, and if he misses 2 more weeks, that's how many games right there. So he's going to miss a fair share of games going forward, and might only be back for that last week of the season or somewhat. So as I asked Anthony about, over or under 2 home runs out of Cassidy the rest of the way this year, it's kind of hard to project more than 2, huh? When he might only be back for a week of the regular season.
Listen, Vito, when you talk about Nick Castellanos, when he first went down, you've seen how it affected the offense. But an important cog, a guy that's back now, is Cameron Maybin. And you just notice that when he's back in the lineup, for whatever reason, he's a guy that's what you would call an igniter. He's a guy that when he's in the lineup, the Tigers do great things. And with the reemergence of Justin Upton, J.D. Martinez, and a guy that I guess I have to apologize to because I've tried to trade him off. I've tried to bury him. Miguel Cabrera's doing some things, and he's a guy that, went 4 for 4 in a game versus the White Sox, and he's an individual that if he's on point playing like this, people are saying that he's still bothered by a foot injury. He's still hitting like this. And so, obviously, being that he's 33 years old, he's dealing with minor injuries here and there. But if he's going to bat at this clip, ever since, the last, let's say, 45 games, he's just been tearing the hell out of the baseball. So we don't really miss Nick Castellanos all that much other than his play at third base. But, they've been trying to make it a patchwork effort over there with McGee, which didn't work out. And now you have Jacoby Jones, and he's still learning, like Anthony said, he's a rookie, and he's still going to learn how to be a professional day in, day out. But he's come in, and he's done a pretty good job. We set the over-under at 240, and he's sitting well above that. But you're starting to see some struggles. Some good pitchers were able to shut him down. I believe he went 0 versus Chris Sale.
Chris Sale struck him out. I saw one time he just threw a fastball right by him. Just ripped it by him. And you know what? Jacoby Jones is young, is prone to the strikeout, had 97 strikeouts, I believe, in 79 games played at Toledo this season, Doc. So he's prone to the K big time, with that being said. Jay Up has been all season long. We know that about his career reputation, too. Thing is, when you're hitting long fly balls out of the ballpark and in clutch situations, it doesn't matter if you're K-ing as much as Jay Up has and will do going forward. And really, it's about how a guy such as Michael Fulmer now, I think, will pitch. And the pitchers, the rest of that rotation, how will those guys pitch? Because I kind of, honestly, I'll say this, Doc, right now. I trust in JD, I trust in Miggy, I trust in J Up even, going down the stretch here. I think they'll hit good enough, be productive enough. But how about the rotation outside of JV? We know we have Verlander, okay, being the workhorse. He can go all these innings, go 8-9 a game going forward, and against your best starting pitchers of the opponent. So we know JV can bring the heat against anybody every fifth day and be really, really standoutish. But the rest of that rotation, how is it going to stack up and perform down the stretch? Because that could be the reason, along with the bullpen. What do you get out of, outside of K-Rod? And even with K-Rod, got to talk about him, too, who hasn't looked totally dominant of late, huh? And recording his saves. Has barely gotten it done. And how about, as well, for the Tigers in these other late inning situations, making it interesting? They have a lot with that bullpen, which hasn't been as steady as I would have hoped or believed at the back end of games going into this season. I thought it would have been better, but the reason why it hasn't been better, well, the main culprit has been who else than Mark Lowe, right? He's been the main culprit for why the back end of the pen hasn't performed up to par for the most part. K-Rod a little bit shaky here and there. Shane Green not as good, and now he's being relegated to less high leverage situations. Kind of interesting, and maybe Brad Osmus pinpointed something with Shane Green, seeing his struggles and saying, well, maybe he's not up to par enough, right, for pitching in the late innings of ball games going forward this year, as they now are in this race, tied with the Orioles for that second wild card. I believe only a game back, okay, of the Bo Sox, or that team who holds the first wild card spot in the American League. And you're only 4.5 games back going into Tuesday night's game against the White Sox and Jose Quintana. 4.5 games back, that is, of the Indians for the AL Central lead. And they play, as Anthony Fenech pointed out too, they play the Tribe 7 more times the rest of this season. They could make up some big ground and even catapult the Tribe for that top spot in the AL Central. But right now, what's going to hold them back, to sum it up, I think, is that rotation outside of JV and the back end of the bullpen, where I don't know if you can totally trust even K-Rod going forward, who's been great, has recorded more saves than he hasn't. But do you yourself right now, Doc, and pay attention to me, Doc, we got a big conversation here about K-Rod. First and foremost, do you trust him, honestly, going forward as a closer?
Of course. Listen, Vito, of course I trust him. Now, is he going to be like the flamethrower that we always, tend to kind of want to gravitate towards? No, but he's a crafty veteran, and when you just look at his stats, obviously the last month wasn't his best, but if used correctly, K-Rod can do the job. And so I'm confident that I'm confident that Francisco Rodriguez will come in there and do the job when needed. And it's incumbent, and you just brought up a bunch of issues regarding the Tigers and their pitchers and things like that, but I want to flesh it out with this. The Tigers right now are gelling as a unit. And what did we ask for the beginning of the season, Vito? Consistency. And the tough part is, there's a glaring weakness at the bullpen spot. Whereas collectively as a unit, they struggle. But individually, it kind of ebbs and flows, where Alex Wilson will have a good stretch, then all of a sudden Kyle Ryan will no longer be able to get outs. Then when you see Justin Wilson, struggle, then Shane Green emerges. What has to happen, and what's happened with the offense and the starting pitchers, is they've kind of started to gel together. Now, the final piece of that puzzle will be that bullpen consistently coming back and doing the job, as well as the offense and the starters bringing it all together. It's really hard to do when you watch now a baseball season, to have your offense clicking, your starting pitchers all in rotation, your starting pitchers all, performing at a high level, and your bullpen clicking at the same time. So what you just see is when the bullpen is called upon, when Brad Ausmus, goes out there, let's say, for example, in a game, versus the White Sox, and JV's out there, basically Justin Verlander at 113 is really probably your best option right now over anybody in that bullpen. And that's what sucks from the outside looking in as a fan. And you go, man, probably right now, who do you trust? Shane Green can do it from time to time, but he's inconsistent. Alex Wilson had a bad performance recently. Justin Wilson has fallen off. You're not going to go to Mark Lowe. Kyle Ryan's done some things, but you just, with the bullpen, you're just not confident. You're not confident with each performance that they're going to go out there and do it. You're going to have question marks. But honestly, Vito, it makes it exciting. It really does. It's never a dull moment when the Tigers call upon their bullpen, and it's something that they've tried to fix. All they can do is just say, listen, go out there, try your best, and even though they've made some mistakes, they've given up leads late, who's come to the rescue? The offense. They've come back and been able to kind of cover up that shitty bullpen. And so,
what did you call it? What kind of bullpen is that?
It's a shitty bullpen.
It is, isn't it? It is. Outside of maybe even K-Rock can be considered that at this point, but 2 straight saves, barely getting the save in my opinion, Sunday and Monday, but he did record back-to-back saves, and back-to-back games that is. Has 39 now in the season, almost at 40, and we still call him out for being mediocre at times, because he doesn't bring that dominant stuff that makes you, scares opponents. He doesn't. He makes you worry when he goes in there, such as Todd Jones, Roller Coaster Jones. He's Roller Coaster K-Rod, isn't he? Right now, it really is. And who else can you trust? If you're not trusting K-Rod, you have nobody else to trust. And that's why you leave a guy like JV in that game on Monday. And you leave him in to pitch against Melky Cabrera, where he blew away Cabrera, too, for the final out of that inning. He's the guy that right now. He's a guy that JV is a guy that can get it done. You can't trust all these other bullpen options right now at the back end of games. You'd rather have him in there at 113, 114 pitches, pitching to Melky Cabrera, with his best stuff still throwing 95, 96, than K-Rock coming in even. So JV has come through in the clutch. These big bats have bailed out the bullpen of late. But the bullpen, still, you can't rely on the big bats to always bail you out, right? The bullpen has to step up, and they might be the reason why the Tigers have a bad stretch at some point going forward. The rest of this way, it might be the bullpen's fault for why the Tigers don't get in. And honestly, right now, if you had to label one major issue, obviously it is the bullpen, and that would be the glaring void that would cause them, in my opinion right now, Doc, to miss out on a postseason appearance.
Well, listen, let me ask you this. I'm starting to get that positivity flowing through me.
You should be now,
starting to
right?
get that
Finally.
fanboy. So now you go, okay, bring on the Indians. I wish they were playing Cleveland this weekend as opposed to when the next time they're playing them. But, Vito, here's the thing. The Tigers are going to play Cleveland 7 more times, which provides you an opportunity really to then say, okay, if you play well, maybe you sweep the Indians. It's not likely, but you can project further and say, if the Tigers can really play the Indians tight and you win 5, maybe 6 of those 7 games, now you're talking about that last week of the season when the pressure's on. The Tigers have a favorable schedule, and I know that it stinks to have to count on the Indians to kind of falter a little bit, but you do have 7 games versus the Indians. Are you starting at all to think maybe, just maybe, it's not so ridiculous to think they might win 3, 4, 5, 6 games?
I'm not going to say that many, but why not 4 and 3? 4 out of 7, why not? If JV's pitching this well, you got him going against the Tribe. You get Fulmer pitching as good as he was at one point this season too. Maybe Zimmermann back healthy and productive, and Alex Wilson pitching as well as he did on Monday. I mean, look at what he did. Alex Wilson, he hasn't been as good this year overall-wise, but he's been better than Justin Wilson. And being counted on now, Alex Wilson has been more than Justin Wilson, more than Shane Green even. And he got it done once again on Labor Day. Verlander, he couldn't go 8. He didn't. And they still, you would think, oh, Tigers, well, they might blow it. But Alex Wilson, a guy like that, if you can count on him, that allows the Tigers to have more leeway to pull Verlander maybe prematurely, which would be before the 8th or before the 9th inning. Because right now, if you look at it this way, outside of, as we, I talked about the bullpen, if you don't have Alex Wilson pitching that well or a guy like that to rely upon to put in the 8th, then you kind of have to have Verlander go 8, okay, or pitch that long, or 7 2/3, and have K-Rod go out there for a 4-out save. But you really don't want him doing that all the time, and not against the Tribe. Not against the Tribe at all, Doc. But you asked me specifically, lining up the Tigers against the Tribe going forward in the remaining 7 games they have head-to-head. I like their odds of being more successful than not. But winning 6 out of 7, that's a mighty big expectation, something that I'm not willing to go along with right now. Now, 5-2, I will go to 5 wins. So let me, you know what? Let's set it at this. Over or under 5 victories for the Tigers against the Tribe?
It's a very interesting question, Vito. One that kind of is a head-scratcher because if the Tigers can play up to their capabilities, then you see a team that can put it together. But the real question is, can you really get to the Cleveland starters? Can you, if you get behind a couple runs late, have these comebacks like you've had versus Kansas City, like you've had versus Minnesota and the White Sox? I don't think so. So it will be very incumbent that when the games start versus the Indians, that you go out there and you absolutely get on fire and start the game off with a lead. That allows the starters to kind of have a little bit of a cushion and allows them to play from ahead. I think it'll be very tough to play the Indians from behind. And you got to remember, I think they have a 4-game series at Comerica versus the Indians. And so those 4 games might be very telling. If you can get 3 of 4 from them and then you maybe get 2 of 3, I would say that right now, I'm going to say it, that's going to be the line. They're going to go 5-2 versus the Indians. They're going to win 3 of 4 at home. It's going to be a great wild series, and they're going to win 2 of 3 at Cleveland. And they're going to be dominant because you might get a situation where I'm hoping it matches up where it's Zimmermann, Verlander, Fulmer. Hey, even Boyd's done a good job. If that's the shakeup, if that's the starters in a series, if you can go, Verlander, Fulmer, Zimmermann, Boyd, my goodness, you have a decent chance. So I'm hoping that the pitching matchups shake out, and maybe in a week or 2 it'll start to round into form as to who's going to pitch. But I'm saying right now, I think they can win 5 of 7. If they play the way they have been, and it's going to be incumbent upon 3 factors. 1, Justin Upton keeps hitting. 2, Miguel Cabrera keeps matching the hell out of the baseball. And 3, JV still gives you, must-see JV stuff. If any one of those 3 doesn't happen, I don't see a situation where you're going to play and be solid against Cleveland. You have to have those things rolling, and I'm just hoping. Let's just, if Cleveland's going to beat us, I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm hoping the Tigers are going to play well. I'm just hoping that it's not the bullpen that costs us games late because it's just tough to see. And my patience is thin. I don't like giving up leads. I don't like the fact that we just can't say, okay, we have a 2-run lead, turn off the game, and it's done. Lights.
You can't. It's never over. It's never over. It's never lights out done. It's never a foregone conclusion, as you would hope it would be with a team that has 75 wins now going into Tuesday night. But it's not. And 2 things that have to happen for me. Ian Kinsler, how about what happened on Sunday? With the hand, the ring, finger, I believe it was, where he got bloodied. He just rubbed some dirt, put some dirt on it. How about that? Don't they tell you that in Little League? Your manager tells the little kid when he starts crying, gets a boo-boo on his finger, hey, rub some dirt on it. That's all that Kinsler did. But the good sign from him is that he pinch ran on Monday in the 11th inning. So Kinsler, we know, hey, he's all right. We need him to be all right. We need him to be effective. And also Jordan Zimmermann, 7 runs allowed in 4 2/3 in his last rehab start Monday in Toledo. Not good out of Jay Zim, a guy that you need to set your rotation straight, right? Against the Tribe. Against a team like that who you want to beat head-to-head. So that also has to be in line and straighten out his injury issue, and effectiveness has to be set in line accordingly, in so many words for the Tigers, to work out, to be able to really do anything productive against the Tribe that can be, more than, let's say, 3-4 wins. I think they need they're going to need a healthy Jay Zim at that point. A really good Kinsler, a better than he has been of late. A healthy Maben. Remember about Maben being healthy as well. We need him to be fully healthy, fully effective. And then Miggy, if he keeps smashing, well, they got a good chance. If those other bats at the top of the lineup, Maben, Kinsler, are healthy and producing, and if Zimmermann in that rotation is really the number 2 in the Tigers rotation, as he should be going down the stretch here. If he's healthy as well, if all that aligns itself in the way the Tigers would love for it to happen, and the way that it should be if everybody's healthy. If that does occur, Doc, then you can have Cabby be that bona fide stud and almost carry your offense and the team the rest of the way this year. If those guys do their parts and really just get healthy and do their parts, Cabby can be that big of a factor down the stretch and carry this team. And the one other thing, as we've talked about ad nauseum, is J-Up. J-Up, really honestly, Doc, if Miggy's doing that, if Kinsler, Maben, if they produce, okay, if Zimmermann comes back and is productive, all that Upton has to do, we're not asking for a lot. We're not asking for the tour rate that he's been on of late, okay, in his last 15 games. All we need is a few home runs and really the timely hits. Because imagine that, if he's timely against the Indians, if they can luckily get to Andrew Miller in the late innings, score some runs, well, they can win some games. And they might have to do that because think about it. The Indians' rotation, how good is it, right? 1 through 5. All those good arms. You're going to have to get to the Indians' pen at some point. And then if they score some runs, get a lead, you have to secure that lead. And that's where the bullpen becomes so vital. What Alex Wilson, Justin Wilson do, right? What Shane Green does, what K-Rod does. They got to be more productive consistently. And if they are, they can help the Tigers. They can help the Tigers win those games against the Indians. But if they are faulty at all, I don't care if the Tigers do gain a lead against the Indians because the Indians have shown they don't give up. They have that never give in, never die attitude as the Royals have had. That's been their big time mojo and key to success to a large extent, along with some other factors on their roster as a whole. But the Royals have carried that momentum, right, that mojo, all the way throughout the last 2 years and even this year to a certain extent. And the Indians are doing that now, big time, Doc. So you gotta be able to score the runs against their pen, but also secure a lead against the Indians. And thing is, if you don't, the Indians, with their never give up attitude, they're going to have a chance because they never, as I said, they never give up. And that's why the bullpen is so very vital, not only against the Indians and because of what I said about the Tribe and their never give up attitude, but against these other clubs. You can pitch as well as you want. Zimmermann can pitch as well as he wants. Fulmer can. Boyd can. Norris can. Thing is, with those guys, too, they might only give you 5-6 innings. That's when your bullpen has to come to perform, right? So they can't come to the ballpark and not be in it, not be productive. So they are so vital. Because I see the bats producing, Doc. I see JV producing. I see the rotation, the rest of that rotation being good enough. It's going to come down to the bullpen. The bullpen could lose the Tigers a playoff spot, in my opinion, to sum everything up.
And so what a lot of fans are kind of clamoring for, and something that's been written about, is when the September call-ups happened, a lot of people were surprised that, where's Joe Jimenez?
My boy, right? As I said, they should have called him up a long time ago, and no call-up.
But on the Detroit News, Lynn Henning writes an article and says that he's just not polished enough. He basically is a one-dimensional pitcher. All he throws is the fastball.
The fastball, yeah.
But he throws it so well, he's getting a lot of guys out. But, according to Lynn Henning, it won't happen. Jimenez simply is yet too green in the Tigers' eyes, no matter that his 2016 numbers have been awesome with a 1.54 ERA, .80 whip in 54 games, only allowing 25 hits in 54 innings. He's got good numbers, 78 strikeouts, 16 unintentional walks, and he's going to finish the year in AAA. So you're not going to see Jimenez this year. It's just not going to happen.
Well, and AAA is done, yeah. So it comes down to that. I guess I've heard more and more, as Lynn Henning wrote in that article, he's not polished enough. I mean, it comes down to that. We thought he would be because he is dominant with that fastball, but for a youngster who doesn't have a lot of other pitches and pitches outside of the fastball that can be dominant against major league hitters, well, then you got to just sit him out the rest of the way and let him pitch next year. See if he can win a bullpen spot in spring training, and that's what they're going to do with Joe Jimenez. And I think at this point, even though I did say they should have called him up, and maybe their season depended upon it at one point because their bullpen, has been so stinky, relatively speaking, for the entire year thus far. Well, I think I'm going to backtrack from that statement, take that back, because, it's been said. The point's been made that he's just not ready. And when you're flat out not ready, well, you shouldn't be up in September in the midst of a stretch run the Tigers are trying to make to get into the postseason via, well, that wild card spot, one of those two, or the division crown in the AL Central, which would be 5 in 6 years for the Tigers. And, Doc, we've got some trivia to discuss here after discussing everything really ad nauseum about the Tigers' pen.
Now, before you get to the trivia, sorry, I was just getting bombarded with a bunch of tweets. The range from the fans on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast regarding the question about how many wins versus the Indians, a lot of our followers are going between 3 and 4. So that's the kind of the average.
It's like get off the fence almost, right? But that's being safe.
Yeah, so most people that are following us are saying they're going to either win 3 games out of 7 or 4. I think that's 4
out of 7 is fair.
Yeah, 4 out of 7, 3 out of 7 is a very fair number, and I think that's where the majority lies right now.
3's not good enough to win the division. Don't you think so, Doc?
No, you got to get at least 4, 5, 6.
How about your boy Bruce Rondon? Has to be pretty darn good down the stretch as well. How about him? He came in, by the way, Monday. He did come in after JV, so before Alex Wilson. See, my mind got all sidetracked because it went extras, the game, remember. So it went 11 innings. I was thinking Wilson, well, he came in to set up K-Rod. Well, no, you had your boy, Bruce Rondon, was actually using that game in that tight situation. Now, hey, maybe you can blame Brad Austin or say something about him using him there, but Bruce Rondon, guess what? Got the job done. An inning pitched, nothing. No hits, no walks. Hey, if he's flamethrowing and producing like that, his ERA, by the way, 3.46. And my boy Alex Wilson right now, he's under 3 now, Doc, with that ERA. Solid as a rock is Alex Wilson. Moving on, trivia. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
2012. I got to ask you about 2012 now. Now, they won the division. They're second at 4 straight AL Central division crowns. Now, the thing is, with that being said, they only had, going into Labor Day in 2012, 72 wins. Now, they had 74 wins this year going into Labor Day. When did they get their 74th victory in 2012? On what date? Kind of a hard one.
September 2012. When did they get to 74? You said Labor Day. They got their 70. You said Labor Day.
They got their going into Labor Day. They had 72 going into Labor Day.
Okay, I'm going to say they got their 74th win 1 week after Labor Day.
Well, September 11th. So right around there.
Yeah, exactly. 6 days after. So.
Well, you know the funny thing is, though, and I should have actually looked up the date of Labor Day, because I don't have the date of Labor Day for then. I just know it was September 11th when they got to 74 victories. Trying to compare how this year, they already have 75 victories going into September 6th. How about that? It's not bad.
The record's what, 75?
75 and 62 right now.
It's a good
Tied
record.
with the Orioles. Good record. Good enough, huh? They play as well as they have down the stretch. And, well, they got in 2012 too. And they played well down the stretch. The White Sox did not. Now, let me tell you this, too. After recording their 74th victory, the Tigers went 14-7 in September of 2012. Very well. While the White Sox in Robin Ventura's first year on the south side of Chicago, they choked big time. So, Tigers got it done, White Sox didn't. Tigers won the division, and now Robin Ventura might be on his way out. But that's beyond the point, or beyond the point of relevance of this conversation. And I wanted to move on now to trivia question number 2, Doc, for you. So listen up, my man. It is about 2013, the ALCS Game 2. We got to go back to it, relive the horrible memories as Tigers fans here on Tigers Talk, episode 56 of the podcast. And it's about how in the bottom of the 8th inning of Game 2 of the ALCS, we know what happened with 2 outs. Benoit came in to try to record the 4-out save, and guess what happened? Big Papi came to the rescue for the Red Sox, got the grand slam, tied it up at 5, and the Red Sox ended up winning the game and the series. But in that game, in the bottom of the 9th, to win it, who got the game-winning hit in that Game 2 of the 2013 ALCS, Doc? Which player? I had to use this as a question because there is some kind of connection with the Tigers, as in a guy that, I mean, this would probably just totally give it away, but I guess I'll just give it to you still. Has played or is playing, I'll say, for the Tigers right now. He is the guy that recorded that game-winning hit in Game 2 of 2013 for the Bo Sox.
Oh, it would be Jared Saltalamacchia.
Did I give it away? But yeah, I'm about to say that probably.
Why don't you just refresh with the Bo Sox? Yeah, they did a nice feature on Fox Sports on Saltalamacchia and kind of how he had to accept his new role and the fact that he's been clutch, he's been a solid addition, and he's just really grateful for the opportunity to resurrect his career here in Detroit, and he's been clutch with a lot of home runs. Unfortunately, his batting average, isn't that consistent. It's below 200.
Yep.
But you know what? All is forgiven when he's basically put us in so many games with his home runs and and his clutch play. He's a solid veteran leader in that clubhouse, and you need a guy like that. And I think he's been a good addition, and it allowed for Holiday to be let go, and I think he's helping James McCann become the catcher that he is now, too. So Jared Saltalamacchia has been really an underrated signing for Al Avila and, an individual
Absolutely.
that's doing some good things for the squad.
Now, Al Avila's son, Alex Avila, or Jared Saltalamacchia, who would you rather have as the Tigers' backup catcher right now? Is that even a question, or is it? What do you think?
I take Saltalamacchia.
You would? Now, is that a big-time difference, you think, between him and Avila right now? What do you think?
I'm a little surprised he's been playing that much, but he's kind of gotten a grasp of Fulmer, Verlander a little bit. He's been in there in situations with the young guys, too. So he's done some good things, and Salty's a guy that's been playing a lot of games, the day games after night games, and he's been in there quite a bit of time. So, and then when from time to time he's at first base if Miggy needs a day off, or if there's he feels a little bit achy here and there, then he's been put at first base. Not the best all around first baseman, better to have him as a backup catcher, but he's done his job. He's earned his money, that's for sure.
How many more wins for the Tigers? What do you think? Now, I'm going to give you some stats here. I'm going to help you out a little bit. We already talked about how they play the Tribe 7 more times before the season concludes.
Let's say realistically three games.
Okay.
Let's say realistically they get 3 games. So that's 3 from them. I like they're going to play Atlanta, Minnesota.
Yep. 7 more times against the Twins, 3 against the Braves at the end of the season.
I'm going to have them going to at least 11 to 12 more wins. I'm going to have them at around 86, 87 wins. Fighting super hard for that final playoff spot, and they might have to actually get into a playoff to get into the wild card. You never know. They might even be in that playing game.
They might be in that one-game playoff, definitely. And I thought going into Labor Day's game against the White Sox that, they could go either. I thought either 14-12 the Tigers or 16-10. 14-12, and now that would be winning yesterday. They did. If they go now, if they win 13 more times, that would equate to 88 wins for the Tigers. If they win 15 more times, that would equate to 90 wins for the Tigers. Do they get in with 88 or 89 instead of 90? Let's just say this, do they need 90 wins to get in, even as that second wild card?
A lot of people are pointing to 90 wins, but hey, if you can get a lot of wins versus the Indians, then you have a stronger chance.
Yeah.
But hey, this series versus Baltimore upcoming is going to be a big series. How do you see it shaking out?
Well, right now, the O's are kind of banged up in their rotation. Tillman coming back, maybe not. Last time I read about his injury, his shoulder soreness and whatnot. He's their ace. Kevin Gossman is good, as I said, but the O's can mash. That's the biggest thing that they have working in their favor, Doc, to say the least. And at least it will be at Comerica. So Tigers have that working in their favor. But anything, all bets are off when you have Buck Showalter and this great O's offense and the prowess for the power. It's really about the power in their lineup with 3 30-plus home run hitters. Chris Davis, the third baseman, Manny Machado, who can do it all. He should be mentioned in the same conversation as Mike Trout, as Bryce Harper, as in the best young players of today's game. And then there's also Mark Trumbo. How about the story of Mark Trumbo? Did nothing in Arizona, did nothing realistically in Seattle. Now in Baltimore, 40-plus home runs now. So 3 30-plus home run hitters, counting Trumbo and those amount of that major league leading amount of home runs that I know he did have for a fact going into last Friday's game for the O's. So those guys, Machado, Davis, and Trumbo, they can mash. And that means, they can take a game. They could even take a 2 and win the series. Take 2 games and win the series. But I'm going to say the Tigers at home, Doc, I'm going to say they win 2 out of 3. Why not? The Tigers' rotation, I believe, is better overall, and is pitching better than the Orioles. So I like the Tigers' odds in this series back at home.
Good job. I think 2 out of 3 is a very fair estimate. They could maybe have a wild weekend back. Maybe you go the first game after a road trip. They do struggle a little bit, but I'm going to put it out there. I think they're going to sweep the Baltimore Orioles. I think they're going to play very well. If they get that first victory, I think then you're going to have the rest of the series to do some damage and do some things and really, really do some things against a contender. Win all 3. Why not?
And that would help out their playoff chances a big time. With that being said, Doc, now really quick, you gave me under 90 wins. Can they get to 90, the Tigers this year? What are the odds of that happening? Over or under 50%?
Under. It's going to be predicated upon success versus Cleveland. Might not happen, so you might be just shy. But if you get 5-6 wins versus Cleveland, you can definitely get to 90 wins, which would be very much a surprise with what everyone kind of expected at the beginning of the year. Just play well. Let's see what Zimmermann does. Let's see if Nick Castellanos comes back at the right time. Maybe he doesn't even get to come back and play that much, but I'm going to go realistically 85 to 90 wins in that range. So I think it's going to be under 50% chance that they get to 90. But you should slot them in between 85 and 90 wins for sure.
85, 86, 87 wins. I don't believe get the Tigers into the playoffs. I don't think those amount of wins. I think you got to get to at least 88 wins for the Tigers to reach the postseason. And that would be for one of those 2 wild card spots. I think for the last wild card spot in the AL, they could win 88 and get in. But I think they got to win 90 to win the division, Doc. Okay, so I'm going to say that much about the Tigers and their playoff hopes going forward. Now, I think they'll win 88 to 90, by the way. And I'm going to say 89 right now. I'm going to peg the Tigers for 89, and they get in via one of the 2 wild card spots. And I'm going to say more than likely it will be that second wild card spot as I see the O's fading a little bit. And the big-time reason for why that will occur, in my opinion, will be because of the Tigers beating the O's 2 out of 3 at Copa this upcoming weekend. And now, really quick, their bullpen arms. We kind of talk about that a lot. Now, of the guys that pitched Monday against the White Sox, you had out of the pen, you had Bruce Rondon, your boy. You had Justin Wilson pitching that game. Alex Wilson, the better of the 2 Wilsons right now. And then also K-Rod. He finished the game for the Tigers, even though he allowed 1 run there. We know he did that. But my question for you, Doc, is who do you trust the most out of those guys in the bullpen that pitched on Monday against the White Sox? So once again, you had Rondon, Justin Wilson, Alex Wilson, and K-Rod. Who do you trust the most going forward?
Okay, very good list. I know when you started talking about, and we did it a couple weeks back, who do you trust?
Remember, we've done that. Who do you trust?
Nobody.
Baby?
I don't trust anybody.
You got to pick one out of the 4. Now, Come on. You can trust Alex Wilson or K-Rod at this point, right? Or for sure, I would say Alex Wilson.
I would say I trust the most Francisco Rodriguez based on his experience and what he's done this year. Then from there, I would go Alex Wilson. And then after that, it's a crapshoot. You just got to get him in situationally and hope for the best because it's just been up and down. They haven't been consistent where it's like some nights they go in, lights out, Justin Wilson, then he goes in there the next night and just gives up a bunch of hits. And Alex Wilson, they kind of put him in rough spots and they try to put him in there with 2 runners on, first and second, 1 out, and then go, here, go ahead, good luck, try to get him out. That's his job, but he just hasn't been consistently coming through, in my opinion. So I just think that Alex Wilson's a guy that has done some things, is a guy that, Brad Ausmus relies upon. It's just game in, game out. There are times when he does give up that key hit, and they just put him in tough spots because when he's in there, it's like he's got 2 runners on, and he's got to try to, strike people out, and that's just not his game. He's a pitch-to-contact kind of pitcher. So this bullpen, man, I don't know. It's like it's almost documentary worthy how bad they are and how inconsistent this bullpen's been. Big roller coaster, but maybe they'll stabilize and really get the job done, or the best cure for a terrible bullpen is a great offense. Just score 6-8 runs a game and don't even let them bring in Mark Lowe for mop-up duty. That's what you do.
That would be lovely. And I think the offense can do it. The rotation can be good enough to go deep into games too, to alleviate having to use a bullpen. That would be great as well, but I don't think it will be as lovely and or occur as often as the offense will produce runs and enough runs to allow that bullpen to feel safe and allow Ausmus specifically to feel safe in throwing Mark Lowe, the mop-up man out there in the 8th inning. Now, really quick, wanted to ask you too, winning 2 out of 3 against the Royals, coming back and winning the way that they did on Sunday in KC as well, then winning Monday in 11 innings the way that they did. Is this what will motivate / catapult them to reaching the playoffs? I mean, is it that kind of a series victory against the Royals and winning Sunday the way they did and winning Monday the way they did against the White Sox? Will that catapult them now to reaching the playoffs, in your opinion?
I just can't really make an opinion really honestly about that until I see what they do in that next series versus Cleveland. Because if they can really show what they can do against, a really top club in a pressure moment, then I could say, you know what, hey, this is a team that could do it. But right now, they're playing teams that they're really better than. So when you play Minnesota,
but beating
Kansas
KC
City,
at Kauffman Stadium, how they've been playing,
they're better than KC.
They are this year, but KC's no slouch. They're still respectable. They're not as good as last year, the year before.
Right. So
it still means something going on the road and beating them 2 out of 3 and winning that game on Sunday when it looked like, remember the Royals, they came back in that game. Norris was great. They came back. It looked like the Royals, hey, it was their game almost to win, right? Based on how they've played the Tigers and their pen issues and all that.
Yeah, with the Tigers, I'm just learning to go series by series. I used to go pretty much week by week. I just go, you know what? Series by series, you can kind of tell what they're doing and how they're flowing into things. So, hey, versus the series versus the White Sox, I want to see them dominate teams that they're better than. Go there and win 2 out of 3. Go versus Baltimore. Do your thing at home. Take care of business, and then we'll go from there. That's the best way to do it. Is this a playoff team? Right now, I'm going to say they're right there on the cusp of being the top wild card or second wild card team. That's what I'd see them as.
So they're going to get in, you think, right now?
I think they're going to get in.
You're off the fence. I'm off the fence. I'm going to say they get in as well, as I said before, via that second wild card spot. And really quick, your toast of the town. It is Doc's toast of the town time.
Toast of the town is going to go to Francisco Rodriguez. I think he did a solid job.
Really?
I think he did a solid job over the week. Kind of came in some tough situations, but he did his job, and he really has started to give us some relief and reprieve as to giving us a closer that, for the most part, it's not going to be easy when he's out there, but for the most part, you can count on him doing his thing if he's used in the right situations. It's hard for him to be utilized in 4-out saves, not used to it. Hasn't been great as of late when they've used him, but I do believe that he's a guy that deserves, I think maybe once this year, to become toast of the town. So I'm going to give it to K-Rod this week.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm going to say no. No to that one. No. I mean, look at how he made it interesting, allowed a run in the 11th, Monday against the White Sox, even against the Royals on Sunday. Come on. Let's see. I'm going to look right now. He allowed a double to start off, and actually, you had, I believe, you had Escobar on third base by the end of that inning, and they barely got out of it. And that was protecting a 6-5 lead there.
Listen, I don't care. I think I'm just going to give him the toast of the town. I don't think there might not be another opportunity to get him that award, so I'm making him toast of the town.
Okay, I'll allow it. We gotta allow it, I guess. You're the doc.
That's
you're
right.
You're the podfather.
You wouldn't allow? You don't think Kara had a good week last week?
Well, he just got it done. Barely getting it done. Do you get celebrated for that and highly recognized? And do you drink a martini with that guy when he's barely getting his job done? Look at it that way. If you were barely getting your job done, would you be celebrated by your wife or your peers?
Maybe it's used as motivation to keep him, maybe motivated to maybe make the saves a little bit easier and to perform a little bit at a higher level to get recognized. Like, hey, keep it up. Go forward.
Go for it, buddy. And just like Little League, we're going to pat him on the
And to
butt.
have him and to go, hey, we're counting on you. Do the job. Maybe I'm calling him in for a pep talk.
You are. So now it's not even toast of the town. Now it's something else completely. But
okay, I would say
you're going to backtrack.
Okay, I'm gonna add one for you. Miguel Cabrera is just tearing the cover off the baseball. I wanted him traded because I thought he had value, could bring you a haul. And when he was struggling, I was a guy that was a little bit worried because of his age. But hey, you can't, until he struggles for a season or two, he earns, the benefit of the doubt. He gets toast to the town this week. Miguel Cabrera.
Jay up 2 straight games of hitting home runs that won the game.
He won it. He got it last week, so he can't.
Yeah, I know it's hard to. It's hard to get the same guy the award every single week, right? It's not really fair to give the guy the award this every.
So this week, Doc's toast to the town, Miguel Cabrera.
Okay, fair enough. You got to change it up a little bit. And Ian Kinsler, you gave him the Buster of the Week. I know I didn't yet, and really he still hasn't produced. So I guess I got to give him it. And he had to go through the trouble of bloodying his ring finger. I mean, is it not fair to give him it now because he had to go through that, did do that, had to sit out, pretty much sat out the entire game before pinch running there on Monday. Is it fair to give him the Buster of the Week from my end? I mean, I didn't give him it yet. You gave him it. I didn't.
Go ahead, give it to him.
Okay.
Buster of the Week from Vito is?
Ian Kinsler. I got it. I mean, look at how many other guys have produced, right? You got so many guys producing in their lineup, and even in their rotation. So if anything, it would have to be a bullpen guy. But I can't give it to K-Rod. I can't even give it to a guy that you like because he still has recorded the saves, Doc. And with that, best of luck to the Tigers. I think they do all right. I think they win 2 out of 3 against the Orioles. And right now they get into the postseason. And Doc is believing that. He's optimistic all of a sudden now. He is believing the same that the Tigers do get in to the playoffs this year.
Thanks to your guest, Anthony Fenech from the Free Press.
Yep.
Very good stuff, Vito. Good podcast.
Appreciated his time on the podcast, episode 56. And next week is episode 57. The year 1957 was the year my father was born, by the way. So 57 next week. We'll talk to you then. And hopefully we'll be in a great mood once again for that podcast as well. Goodbye, everybody.